Well, for those of you stuck in the city or the suburbs, this is the back side of my property. I'll show you around a little bit. I enjoy my little nature walks. Even though my property line is right about where the trees are, that's a replant from a clear cut about 20 years ago. It's thousands, probably 10,000 acres that way and that way, up over the mountain to clear the other side where there's another valley, where there's private property along the valley. And I have legal access to be back in there. It's where I take a dog for a walk and go hunting and stuff. Oh, sadly, this sugar pine died. We took it down, but there's too much rot to do anything with it. It's either rot. Pine's not good for firewood, but I wanted to use my chainsaw and mill up like a couch or something with this one and do some chainsaw carvings or whatnot, but too rotted. One thing you look for in timber production potential is the size of the old stumps. You can see that's a pretty good sized stump there. That's probably 3.5 feet, maybe pushing 4 feet diameter. So what I need to do is continue to thin out the small trees so the big ones can thrive because they have the potential. Here's a good example. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That one's far enough away. Trees. The mature one would be this sugar pine right here. So he's the one that we need to let survive, and we need to do it by removing his competition, like this Doug fir and that Doug fir and those two Doug firs. And that's why they've got a blue line on them, because I did a timber cruise here last year. I thought I was missing a camera. I found the camera. I'll have to pull this apart. Put new batteries in it and redeploy it. This looks like the seal is coming off. I'll mess with it later. I tie them on pretty good so that somebody can't just grab them. Bears tear them down all the time, these damn things. Anyway, you can see the same thing here. See how it never was. This is not natural to have them this overcrowded. But they logged off the old growth. And then they do artificial fire suppression. So then you end up with all this overgrown shit. And then you get these massive fires. So like, again, in this case, here's a nice ponderosa pine. Nice specimen. He needs to be given some help by getting rid of all this little competition around him, like this stupid little thing, and be a good pole for making maybe a ridge beam in a trapper's cabin or something. Here's a nice sugar pine. They're the ones with the giant pine cones that are like, they can be like 14 inches long or something. These are old, but when they drop in the fall, they make nice Christmas decorations. I used to sell these for 50 cents a piece to the Girl Scouts way back many, many decades ago in the Sierras. My son got married right here. The arch fell over, but they made this nice little backdrop. See, here's a nice ponderosa pine. But it's at risk because it's in competition with this little piece of shit Doug fir that's got to grow out at an angle to try and find some sun. So he's marked blue. He needs to come out. That one right there needs to come out. Let these big guys thrive. See, I am a tree hugger. but you hug the trees and take care of them by getting rid of the overgrown ones. Same thing here. This Doug fir is all crooked and crowding out the ponderosa pine. So he needs to go, and that one can get bigger and healthier. And then they're more fire resilient and drought resistant. We don't get the bug kills. That's what killed that sugar pine at the back of the property. It was dry it out, the bug kills. See, there's a couple of nice ponderosas there. Ponderosa with a Doug fir and a little Doug fir in front of it, blocking the light, stealing the water. Use that for maybe the bottom logs on a trapper's cabin or something. It doesn't really make that great of firewood. It's a softwood. I won't burn pine. Pine will burn your house down because it plugs up the flue with sap. But I will burn fir. It burns hot and fast, so keep it on during the day, but not at nighttime. That's all fir. Here's some hardwoods, which the madrone is absolutely the best. It's one of the hardest woods out there. It's probably the hardest wood in North America. It may be mesquite. I'd have to look it up, but the rating, I mean, it's like steel. Burns super hot and super clean. And then I've got oak in here. Oak burns hot and lasts a while, but it's dirty. You get ash. Not a whole lot, not as much buildup as in the flue as the Doug fir. This is all cleared for fire danger, fire prevention. Pine cones make great fire starters. Kilo. It's all split. Kind of sucks that I can't stack it next to the house because of fire clearance, so I got to put it all out here and then move it close to the house when the fire season's over. Put up a new ladder. Somebody online had the wise idea to strap it to the tree. It's just held up there right now temporarily with rope. I got a big huge lag bolt that I'm using, so I'll lag bolt that, and then I'll have my meat pole for processing deer, bear, elk. Yeah, I got fire clearance around the house. Like any redneck, you gotta have an appliance in the yard. This is actually my old fridge. I'm gonna use it for dry aging, for hanging the deer meat. So I got a few weeks to get that project done. Anyway, a quick little unofficial tour for you. Got my throwing knife target. Right there's a seasonal creek that runs pretty good, and I'm planning to put a paddle wheel generator in it, about 150 watts, and then run it over, run a separate off-grid circuit into the wall, and then use a resistive radiator heater to provide passive heating to the house from the water 24/7. You don't want to use a heater that has a fan, because low voltage, the fan won't start and then it can burn up on you and cause a house fire. So I'm just going to use one of those oil-filled resistive heaters, so there's no risk at all of any low voltage. And then the unit will be sized so that even when it's at max power output, it will not exceed the power rating of the heater. Also got some nice hardwoods. There's an oak tree. I tend to favor the oaks because they drop the acorns, which are what the deer and bear rely on, especially deer. Acorns are like pure carbs. And once they start dropping, they fatten up. The deer fatten up on the acorns for wintertime, so it's a crucial food source for them. So you can see I've cleared out a lot of the competition. Let that nice oak thrive and survive. And then the madrone here, we talked about that being it's a really rare, not rare, it's very unique. Well, it grows in the Pacific Northwest in sort of a narrow band, and then it grows in Spain, the madrona tree. But it's pretty unique. It actually drops the leaves in summertime. How many trees drop the leaves in summertime? But that works really good because it's a mulch that traps some moisture in. And then let's see, this one's a little too. I have to get. See how the bark is peeling up there? Here's a better example over here. You take this bark right here, and the Native Americans made tea out of that. I did that when I was a teenager. It tastes like shit, but what else are you gonna get tea out of here? So anyway, you got a source for some tea. Super hardwood, but the best firewood there is probably on the planet. Looks like there's a defective oak. Looks like that used to be a big tree that broke and maybe lightning or something burned it out. I got it marked to come out for firewood because there's no way that'll ever grow into a healthy tree. Even if it got a little bigger, it would eventually just break. Same thing here, way too many little Doug firs, but these are great poles for projects, a little trapper's cabin or something. Some sugar pines. This was a clear cut they did about 30 years ago, and they planted the whole thing with ponderosa pines, and now there's no market for ponderosa pine, and there's not even a mill that'll take them. I think the James Hardie Corporation, I heard, has the artificial trim. The pine was mostly used for molding, and now all that stuff's artificial. So they did an entire replant of a tree species that's currently there's no market for. Another nice oak there. I like leaving the mature oaks. You can see I left the companion trees next to it. They're not really threatening too much, competing too much for water. And they provide my yard with some nice shade. So anyway, there's a little unofficial walking tour.